What up, everybody? It's time to do another knife review, and we're going to jump right into this one. I'm sure you've seen the title. You already know what this is. This is the Y-Start branded Sinkevich Coordinal leaf pattern. This is a copy made by the Chinese Y-Start brand of the Sinkevich Custom Coordinal with the leaf pattern handle. Now, the first thing I want to say is, yes, this is a copy knife, but it's a loose copy. Actually, it is different in many major ways. The first of which is, as delicate and intricate as the handle machining looks on this version, the actual Sinkevich is about twice as detailed. It is crazy, the pattern in it. The second thing is it's a different size. This knife is not as big as the Sinkevich Custom. So there's a few differences in there, and of course this is a copy. It's not a clone or a rip-off knife. It does not have any Sinkevich markings on it. It only has the blade steel marking, which is D2. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into dimensions, knock that out, and then we'll get back into talking about this beautiful little knife. It has a 3 3/4 inch or 9.5 centimeter blade length. The blade stock thickness is 159 thousandths of an inch or 4 millimeters. The blade width is 912 thousandths of an inch or 23.17 millimeters. The handle length is right at 4 7/8 or 12.5 centimeters. The handle thickness, 538 thousandths of an inch or 13.67 millimeters. The handle width, and that's at the widest point up at the pivot, is 1.07 inches or 27.28 millimeters. The closed width is fabulous on this because that blade pretty much nests. The closed width is just 1 millimeter wider than the handle width by itself, and that is up here at this point of the blade. So the closed width is 1.10 inches or 28.15 millimeters. The overall length is right at 8 5/8 inch or 22 centimeters, and the weight, a very lightweight 3.77 ounces or 107 grams. All right, we'll get into the material on this. Well, I've already shown that the blade is in D2. The handle is in TC4 titanium. The hardware that you see, the pivot and screws, are stainless. These pins in the back, they're for aesthetic purposes only. They are stainless. The back spacer is titanium and the clip is titanium. So you've got quite a bit of titanium there in the handle. Pretty much everything except for these pins and the pivot and this screw back here. Now, this thing has a beautiful anno job on it. I want to move this around in some different light angles, guys, and you can see it flowing back and forth from purple to blue. It's a blue anno, but when the light hits it and the light reflects, it turns purple. All right, that is absolutely beautiful. It is beautiful, guys. Everybody, it doesn't matter if they like knives or not, when they look at this knife, they are blown away by how beautiful it is. The intricacy of the milled out the machining here in this, what's supposed to be the leaf pattern, and just the anno, it is such a beautiful knife. I can find no issues in the machining of the handle, no machining marks, no nothing, guys. It's just smooth and beveled and chamfered and well fit together. There's no gaps anywhere. There's no common issues that you would find in a lower cost knife. A knife under $100. I believe these are going for $90 right now. And that's a pretty doggone good deal, in my opinion. The pocket clip is a milled pocket clip. It is, it's a little different, guys. It's not, even in milled pocket clips, typically they are flat to the plane of the handle. And this one is not. You can see here that not only you've got the flat right here, but as soon as you come down to the clamp portion of the clip, it's bent over. That's very interesting. The contact point there, you can see the contact point for the clamp is a very, very small contact point. It's a very interesting looking clip. Now, it is titanium, but it is not anodized. So it's silver against the blue purple. It's a beautiful, beautiful knife, guys. I just can't say enough how attractive of a knife it is. Sinkevich, when he came up with this, Dmitry Sinkevich, when he came up with this design, that first of all, the overall coordinal design, I'm sure you recognize this. Let's bring another knife in here and we'll compare. And that is the Zero Tolerance 0452. Now, the 452 is based on the coordinal model in the original size. All right, so it is slightly bigger than this Y-Start version, and we'll lay them down here right next to each other and line up the pivots. So you can see that it is not quite the same. There is a difference in the blade length and a difference in the handle length. The Zero Tolerance 0452 CF is the original size that the coordinal was. And this is slightly smaller, so this actually falls in between what the 0452 and the 0450. And that's a pretty decent size. So, man, that's just a beautiful knife. Let's go on up here to the blade. It's a classic Sinkevich design blade. It is long. It is narrow. It has, you know, a high, flat, I would call it almost a saber type of grind with a large swedge that is 3/4 the length of the blade for the most part. And the interesting thing that I see on these, and that goes across all of these designs, whether it's the Y-Start version, the Vespa version, Zero Tolerance, and Sinkevich's designs. This is something we don't commonly see. You can see that the swedge grind plunges down across the primary grind line. Now, typically what you see in knives is the swedge will be ground to the primary grind, and then you'll have one line coming out and they meet. But you can see on this that the swedge is ground down through the primary edge lower. That is something that I see across, that I've noticed across a lot of Sinkevich designs, or the coordinal designs that he did. And that's, you know, that's sort of interesting to me. You don't see that often. More often than not, you see those two grinds just meeting each other. So anyway, you've got a D2 blade. You know what? Who knows if it's D2? I'm not one of these people that thinks that all these Chinese companies are lying. I think to just assume that somebody is lying is sort of mean-spirited. And if you've got proof that a company is lying about materials, then that's one thing. But just to say it's a Chinese company, they have to be lying about this steel, because I know D2 steel, you can only get it in certain places, which is bullshit. D2 is a tool steel, and any country in the world that does any type of tooling, or has for the last 3 decades, has access to D2 steel. It is not an exotic super steel that's available only in America. So I would imagine that this is D2. I've not had any rust issues with it. Of course, I keep it wiped down with Tough Glide. It came very sharp. I'm not going to do a paper cut test, but I can tell you right now it is shaving sharp. One good thing about this is you have a workable proper sharpening choil. If you look very closely, that is just about perfect. I may have gone another 30-second further on the sharpening choil, but you can see the sharpening choil, the edge, and the plunge just about meet perfectly there. So this could be sharpened, and you shouldn't have any issues with bad flare at the base of the edge grind when you resharpen. Now it is close. It is close, so you'll have to be exact down in that, around that sharpening choil, so you don't get up into the sharpening choil and the plunge, because it is not a very tight plunge. It is a flared plunge. It's pretty even. The grinds on this knife are fairly even. Now there's a slightest bit of difference in the swedge at the plunge of the swedge, but everything else on the knife is pretty good. The edge is very even on both sides. It looks like to me that the primary grind is pretty even. You'll typically see if the primary grind is off, it will cause your edge grind to be off. Now, you know, my overall impressions on this knife, guys, for $90, for less than $100, I don't see how you're going to do much better than this. And yes, for those of you that hate copy knives, hate China, everything is a clone, everything's a ripoff, the custom makers are losing millions of dollars because people buy these knives, no, you're not going to like it. I'm sorry. But the fact is, I don't care what you say, Sinkevich, if he made 3 of these knives and on the used market they're going for over $2,000, he's not losing a damn dime. Everybody in the world could buy one of these, and as long as the 3 he made were sold, he's not losing a dime. Okay, if you can prove otherwise, do it, but I think you should probably take an economics class first. If he's not going to lose his sales over it, he's not losing a dime off of it. Is he making any money off of it? No. You know, there should be some way that these guys can license these blades and make a little bit of money off of it. I agree with that. But not making money off of something that you never made any money off of in the first hand is not losing money. So for you guys that hate these kind of knives and hate everybody that has anything to do with, and the guys that have commented on my post that hate me and have accused me of being a thief and supporting thieves, yeah, you're not going to like this knife. But I got to tell you what, I live in the real world. I can't afford, and I couldn't get it if I wanted to anyway, because I guarantee one of the 3 is not for sale now. I couldn't afford the real thing on my best day ever. So I don't feel bad at all about owning this. It's a beautiful knife, very well made. And, you know, that's just pretty much all I can say about it. Now, I do want to take a minute. There is another version of this, a Chinese-made version, and it's done by Vespa. It is the same exact knife design. But, again, the Vespa version is in the original Sinkevich size. Now, I don't have one on hand, but I do have the 0452. And what you saw in the 0452, it being slightly longer than this knife, that's what you will see in the Vespa version of this knife. Now, the Vespa version, I'm going to do some differences even though I don't have it on hand. It does have the 4.1 inch blade. It does have a slightly longer handle. Blade stock thickness and handle thickness are the same. It does have the same aesthetic qualities on the back here with the pins inset and a titanium backspacer, but on the Vespa, the backspacer is going to be anodized. It does have the same design pocket clip, slightly longer, and it will also be anodized. And then it does have the same basic design, aesthetic design of the pivot, But instead of taking a dedicated tool like this version, the center of the Vespa is set up for a Torx wrench, where I'll have a hard time adjusting this one without scratching it. I mean, I can get in there with a flathead screwdriver, just have to be careful. On the Vespa version, you'll find that it's the Torx. Then on the Vespa version, the blade steel will be M390 instead of D2 on this version. Other than that, they're pretty much the same thing. Same design, same profile. Both are in a bearing pivot system. This knife is incredibly smooth. The centering is pretty much perfect. The action, fantastic. The lockup, you can see, is probably 35 or 40%. It does have a hardened steel lock face insert for longevity on the lock face. You know, just everything about this knife, guys. It's amazing what you can get for less than $100. The action is typical for what I see in this design. There are a lot of things about this design, the Coordinal design, that lend itself to being a very good flipper as long as the detent is set up right. It has a forward positioned flipper tab. It is positioned forward of the center line of the pivot on all these models, and that makes it mechanically more efficient. And then you've got that long, narrow blade profile. There's not a lot of weight there, even though it is in 4mm stock on this model. And combine that with a decent detent and that flipper tab design orientation with the pivot, and you end up with a fantastic flipper. Every one of these knives that I've held myself have all been very good flippers. So overall, guys, as far as the Y-Start goes, yeah, it's not the original size. It's, you know, what is it, a 9/10 size? You know, instead of a 4.1 inch blade, you've got a 3 3/4 inch blade. But that's really, you know, the 3.5 to 4 inch blade length is what I like. That's the sweet spot size-wise for me. And again, look at that. For a 3 3/4 inch blade length, the difference in just the handle width and the closed width, if you exclude the flipper tab, the only difference you're going to see is right here. Right here where the back end of this blade sticks away from the handle. That's the only difference. You're looking at a millimeter difference and a very slim closed design with a tip-up orientation. That's going to go right down in your pocket. It's not super thick, right at a 1/2 inch thick, and it's going to be so easy to carry. It is beautiful to be able to carry a knife with this length of blade in your pocket and be able to get your hand in and out of your pocket. It's much easier than a wider profile knife. I really, really, really love that. I really love carrying all these knives, whether it's this one, whether it's my 0452. I am definitely going to get the Vespa version of this knife. It's quite a bit more expensive. It's $100 more expensive, but you get the M390 blade, the additional ano on the back spacer and the pocket clip, and the original size in the 4.1 inch size. That'll put it the same exact size as the custom Coordinal and the zero tolerance 0452. But guys, I'm just going to bring this back up here. Look at this. Look at that machining, guys. And you can see it's a 3-dimensional machining. You've got the surface level, and then you drop down to a lower level, and look at how tight the machining is on it. Okay? The machining is so good on this knife. it looks almost like overlay. The machining is so tight from one layer to the next, but it's not. It's, it's one piece of titanium. But it is just beautiful, beautiful work, guys. I just honestly, as far as quality of machining goes, I don't know exactly how you could do any better than that. I mean, in a $100 knife, look at the quality of machining on this. And there is not one machine mark anywhere. Anywhere, guys. It looks like these handles were probably lightly bead blasted and then tumbled. Is what the surface sort of appears like. It's hard to tell. It's very smooth, but it's had some sort of surface treatment to soften the surface up before it was anode. Yeah, it is just fantastic, guys. Fantastic. Everything about it is just so very well done. You hear me say that about a lot of the knives that I buy, and the reason is, it's not because I'm a giant fanboy of everything I buy, because I'm embarrassed to say anything bad about it. It's just that I do a lot of extensive research before I buy anything. And, I saw multiple videos on this knife with close-ups and the specs and the commentary about fit and finish and all of that. And that's the great thing about these knife reviews. You don't have to go and look at this yourself, because you got to order this from China, and who can go to China to look at a knife? You can go on YouTube and you can look at these videos and you can see how exact the machining is. You can see the shape of the handle. You can see the quality of the grinds on the blade. I mean, that's the main reason I love doing these videos. I've got a limited amount of disposable income to spend on knives, and I know other people do too. And it just makes me feel better to help these guys and gals that are out there looking, maybe in some research for a future purchase for them. So anyway, let's go ahead and close this out. Fantastic knife, fantastic build, decent blade steel, beautiful machine work and anode work on the handle, a great Sinkevich design. I mean, I don't see how you could argue with this design at all, whether it's in this Y-Start version, the Vespa version, the multiple zero tolerance versions, the Sinkevich custom versions. I mean, it is a fantastic design. This is one that just, if Dmitry Sinkevich didn't do anything else right in his entire career, he could just ride the coattails of this design and be considered great. All right, so I want to say thank you once again for taking the time to view one of my videos. I really enjoy doing these. I love hearing some feedback from you guys. So comment, and as always, God bless all of you, and we will talk to you later.